Uh, are we feeling groovy? All right.
Love it. Love it, Lynn. Thank you.
Ah, there she is. Hi, McKeely. All right.
Hi. Love it. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
All right. There we go. Got us live on the YouTuber. And here we go. So, welcome everybody. And we are here for conscious communication, which I like the idea of that better too. And so I'm just kind of trying to put myself in. Oh, I'm dyslexic, I guess, because it seems like I'm putting myself in the middle, but really I'm putting myself to the side. It's a little better. All right. There we go. Now we all know what I look like. All right. So tonight, first off, how's everyone's fourth? How was everyone's holiday? Did we do anything fun? Did we um, go out and have a barbecue or picnic or do anything that was fun? I gotta fly in here. I did. I went over to my kids' house and spent the day with my grandchildren, and it was really very nice. And we had a great cookout, and lots of people showed up. And yeah, so it's that's always fun when a lot of family shows up. So, all right. So tonight I'm going to, we talked about Diedrich Walsack, and Sharon, you're going to love this, and the work that he does at the Choose Again. And so I have a video of him from the Course of Miracles conference in New York, which was he did a really great talk there. So we're going to listen to that and hear Diedrich, the man himself, talk about how it works. And he explains it much better than I do. Is mainly the reason that we're doing it this way, because we like to hear what Diedrich has to say. And as far as feelings, he's going to talk a lot about feelings in this. So here we go. Sharing. And is that right? There we go. Diedrich, my buddy, my friend. All right, so here we go. Let me know if you can hear okay.
Process. And when I say we've developed it, it's got nothing to do with me. Every single step of this process is in the Course in Miracles. All you have to do is look at it. You'll find every single step we take in that process. So the first step of our process is to acknowledge that you're upset. Now that sounds easy, but I can assure you, and maybe there's some other people that who would echo that experience. I was upset no more than 24 hours a day. I was absolutely, continuously, chronically upset, and I expressed that either with incredible anger and rage, or I expressed that with complete numbness. But there was nothing in. So I was chronically upset, and I had no idea that I was. But it took me a while to be able to begin to see that if I could just say I'm upset, then that would be a very first careful step in a direction of taking a look at that. As I just read, temporarily there's a problem. So that's step one. Step two is a more important step from my point of view, from a developmental point of view, and that is to say it's about me. That's step two, it's about me. So if I look back over the many years that I didn't do this work and talked about all kinds of other nonsense, and I studied philosophy, I studied whatever I could get my hands on, but one thing I never ever learned anywhere was to say it's about me. It was always about you. It was always about the weather. It was always about the fact that I had no money. It was always about the fact that I was born in a concentration camp and all that silly nonsense. It was always about something else. So when I realized that the Course talks about step two, it's about me, on almost every page. It's my thoughts alone that cause me pain. It's my thoughts alone that cause me pain. wow, it's my thoughts alone that cause me pain. That is step 2. So it's not about you, it's not about my partner, it's not about my wife, it's not about you name it, it's about me. That's a huge step. And when we work at the center, which we do every day, we have 2 circles a day, this is what we do all day long. It is amazing that even I, who do this professionally, have done it now for 20 years, and who teaches step 2, I can't tell you how many times a day I say, oh, but this is different. This is now we finally have discovered an exception to the story. Right, Myron? This guy was different. You had your story. And then to have made sure that I have mighty companions who will immediately tap me on the shoulder and say, no, it's not different. It's still about you. And then the ego comes in brilliantly and starts defending its position, explaining why. And this is why we don't do story. Because in this story, I can tell you how this is not about me. In the story, I get to be right, that this is about you. This actually is not about me. So we don't do story. I hope that makes sense by now, why we don't do story. And I hope you can take a look at that over time and say, well, maybe I'll stop telling stories too. The third step, everybody on board with step 2, by the way? Anybody who says, fuck that, I'm not doing it? Just be honest. All the hands should go up. Because I can guarantee you we'll walk out of here and every single one of us, including me, will immediately think it's not about me. But if I do train my mind over and over and over to go back to step 2, it will become more and more true, and it will become the way out. So step 2, it's about me. Step 3 is to go to the feeling. And as I said, I had a rich palette of feelings that was numb and rage. That was all the feelings I knew. So when I started doing my so-called counseling practice, I developed a feeling sheet, which originally was, of course, just for me, like everything I do is for me. But this was ostensibly to help my clients understand their feelings. And the first time I used it, there's about 90 feelings on there. And the first time I used it with a couple that came to see me with a husband was a minister in a prominent, large congregation, and his wife had just discovered that this wonderful, important spiritual leader had had an affair with her best friend for 3 years. And she was not happy about that. And she wasn't prepared to do step 2 at that point either, so we didn't even go there. But what we did do is give the feeling sheet. I gave both the feeling sheet. And he looked at it and he crossed off one and he crossed off another and he crossed off another. And he got to about 5 and he was visibly impressed with himself, and so was I. And I looked over at her and she hadn't crossed a single one off yet. So after a few minutes of this, it said, well, it seems to me like you found a few feelings to work with, and I don't think you found one yet. So I said to the woman, and she crossed off bored. I said, that's the only feeling I'm not feeling. So she had a huge range of feelings. And here's the good news. As you all know from that fantastic line from the Course that says, I choose the feelings I experience. I choose the feelings I experience. No one makes me feel. Again, that's step 2. Nobody makes me feel anything. I choose the feelings I experience. Now, the lesson that we're teaching from that particular line is, who is the I that's choosing it? Who's the I that's choosing to be angry? Who's the I that's choosing to feel sad? Who's the I that's choosing to feel mildly irritated? That I is a belief. Does that make sense? So that I is nothing other than a belief. There's no I that chooses other than an imaginary, illusory I that I made up. And because I made it up, I believe that that's actually who I am. And that's why we validate feelings. But if you come to our center, I will never validate feelings. Feelings only have one purpose. And the only purpose for the feeling is to help me go back to the I that chose it. Does that make sense? So the I that chose the feeling. But in order to get to that I have to feel, which I've indicated now was a major challenge for me, because I didn't know what feelings were. But once I learned to feel, and once I learned to follow that feeling back to the very first time I ever felt that. Now that's a big step as well, because most people say, oh, I don't remember anything before 18. But here's the good news. If you truly are in your feeling, it will take you back. I'll tell you a little funny story that I had many years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago. I was with an old friend of mine, an old ex-drinking buddy, and we were in a Japanese restaurant, and even though I don't drink to kill myself anymore, I still really enjoy drinking. So we had a fair number of sakis, and I was having a wonderful evening, and he turned to me and he said, "That work you do, that's really bullshit, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, could be." And he said, "Why are you doing it?" And I said, "Well, because I really want to be at peace. And I've been at war with myself and the world for way too long. And my one and only purpose now is to be increasingly at peace." I said, "I don't need that." And so that's all right. I know the guy really well, so I know that what he said right there was complete nonsense. He said, "I don't need that." And I said, "Well, that's great. So that means you're at peace." And he said, "Oh, I'm at peace all the time." And at that moment, in the dining room next to us, a cell phone went off. And he said, "That pisses me off." I said, "Isn't that interesting?" And because he'd been drinking, there was no resistance. So I said, "What did it remind you of?" And he went back. "I'm 3 years old. I'm sitting in my parents' house in Ireland, and my sister just pissed in the corner." That's what came up for him in that feeling. That is the work in full flight. Now, if he'd been sober, he would never ever gone there, but he wouldn't have allowed me to go there. He wouldn't have allowed himself to go there. But because he'd been drinking, he went back to that moment. And I said, "Great. And what did that mean about you when your sister did that?" And he said, "I'm not important." Yes, that's it. Now, he works an average of 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, makes millions of dollars a year. Why? To cover up the belief that he's not important, and he never knew that. Now, when he sobered up the next day, he didn't know it again, so it didn't really matter. And he's not a client, so I had absolutely zero investment in him staying with that. But it was such a beautiful illustration of somebody allowing a feeling to take him back to the moment when you first felt it. Because that's all we do. You all know that section from the Course where it says, "Every day and every hour in each day and every minute that each hour holds, you but relive the moment when the time of terror took the place of love." And that's what I do. That's what you do. All day long is a replay. How exciting does that sound? Every moment is a replay, and it's a replay of when I first chose to remember, when I first chose to feel, when I first chose to believe that I'm separate. Now, ultimately, of course, the Course is talking about the moment when I had that tiny mad idea, we remembered not to laugh. We all did that. But I don't work at that level, because to me, I don't really understand that yet. So I work at a level just above that, is where I made up beliefs. And the beliefs are, what, of course, what keeps me separate, but also I have to undo the beliefs in order to go to that final step and to recognize that oneness is the truth. And oneness is the truth. We all know that. But from our point of view, from a practical healing center point of view, it doesn't serve me to speak in concepts only. What serves me is to actually come up with a practical way of getting to the beliefs, and this process is that way. So I arrived back at the moment when I first had this feeling. One of my beliefs was that I wasn't supported. And I lived that out all the time, and even when people were supporting me wholeheartedly, 100%, I would reject that to the point where they said, "Well, we're not supporting you anymore." And I'd say, "See?" And I got to be right. So my whole life was a continuing sequence of being right about beliefs. And you know the fantastic cliche line that everybody uses all the time: you can choose to be right or happy, and the key word is "or." And the ego has no idea. The ego is very, very, very good at being right. So I was right that I was not supported. And I traced that back. Where did that come from? Well, that came from right after the war. In 1945, I received my first toy. Because you can imagine in the camps, there's not a lot of toys being handed out. So I got a beautiful red metal truck. And I always think it was that big because I was that big. It probably was only about this big. But it was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. And I also met my father for the first time, who had been in different camps for 3.5 years. And we were walking across the boardwalk, across the fish pond, and the truck slipped out of my hands into the water. And my father would not go in the water to get it. At that moment, I made up, I'm not supported. I made up a bunch of other stuff at that moment too, but I had already made that up earlier. But I was not supported. It was very clear at that moment. And the rage when I felt when I was 3.5, and my father wouldn't go in the water to get that truck, is the rage that I would feel over and over and over when I made up that people were not supporting me. Till I finally learned to work with it, to finally found the process that we use now, and to recognize it's not true. I'm divinely supported. I'm divinely supported. And that's an incredible experience, an incredible awareness, an incredible truth that suddenly came through for me. And it took a long time. And even today, as Claudia will tell you, even today I will invent ways to see lack of support. And even if you're supporting me, which you clearly are doing by being here, I will find a way to minimize it and make it less valuable. Now, thank God there is progress. If there wasn't progress, I probably would have driven off the road a long time ago. There is incredible progress. So I'm seeing it less and less. And now when I feel it, it's just a little pang. So, okay, there it is. Wow, that's that same belief. Does that make sense so far? So the process, number 1, I'm upset. Number 2, it's about me. Number 3, I need to go to the feeling. And the question that I ask with that feeling, is this feeling familiar? Because the ego will want to make it specific. The ego will want to say it's now. It's because Lynn is wearing purple and I hate purple and that's why I feel this way. And I want to be right about that. And I will defend that. And I will call on other friends, and they will all say, oh, I know Dietrich hates purple, and then she's wearing it. That's why you're upset. That's what friends are for in the ego world, is to collude with my insanity. Step 2, it's about me. It's not about the purple shirt. It's not about Lynn at all. It's about me. What does the purple bring up for me? How do I feel when I see that purple? The next step of that is to even drop the word purple, because it's not about that either. It's just about the feeling. It's just about the feeling. And then not to make the feeling important, because the feeling is not important. The feeling only has one purpose, and that's to take me back to the first time I felt that. And the next step is to ask, what did I make up about myself when I first felt that? So what did it say about me that my father wouldn't pick up that truck? It said I wasn't loved, it said I wasn't important, it said I wasn't supported, and probably a few other things, but those are the 3 that I work with. Those are 3 of part of my, the self I made up. And then the following step is to do forgiveness. And the forgiveness, as you all know, because you're all very good course students, is never, ever, ever about the other person. That's why step 2 is also so important. It's not about the other person ever. So I'm not forgiving my father for not going in the water. I forgive myself for believing that it meant that I wasn't loved. I forgive myself for the insane belief that I could actually believe that I was not, and that I was not supported. I forgive myself for the insane belief that I'm not important, I'm not loved, I'm not supported. Those are insane beliefs. But as long as I don't do the forgiveness on them, I will live as if they're true. That's the piss off. I will live as if they're true, and because I live as if they're true, I will have incredibly convincing evidence. Because to me it is true. And it will continue to be true till I change my mind. Ramana Maharshi was one of the earlier authors of the Course. Has the one question that he keeps asking is, who are you? Who are you? And that to me is such a wonderful shortcut that cuts through about 1,400 pages of course material, is who is the I that has this thought? Who is the I, Marion, back to your story, who is the I that didn't like this person? Who is the I that found it difficult to work with him? Who is the I that got angry at my son when he kept using drugs? Because that I is an I that I make up. That I does not exist. But to defend it over and over and over, and to say, no, no, it's not about this, this I is right this time, that's lethal. That will do me in. Make sense? Cool? So the last step is forgive me for forgetting. And so the first is to forgive me for believing I'm not loved, forgive me for believing I'm not important. Then never go back to, oh, you are loved, look at all the people that love you. That is insane. That is equally insane. You go back to the truth of who you are. Like a lot of people come to the center and they have a belief that I've never had. I don't know why I didn't have that, but I probably should have had, but I didn't have, and that's a belief that I'm stupid. I don't have that belief, but a lot of people do. And so they come to the center and they come up to that belief and they say, forgive me for believing I'm stupid. And then somebody will say, it's not true, you have a PhD. That is not why you're not stupid. You're not stupid because you have divine intelligence. Does that make sense? So it never is a matter of any valid value in the illusion, which we call this little world. It's always about the eternal truth that is not true. So forgive me for believing I'm not loved is not met with, oh, look at all the people that love you. That's not the issue. Look at who you are. It is impossible that you and I are not loved. Even if this whole room hates me, and walks out of here and says, we hate that guy, it would have absolutely no impact on me at all. Because I know who I am. I am love. I think it's Baron Katie that has that fantastic line that I absolutely love. And she says, when I walk into a room, I know that everybody adores me. They don't know it yet. That's really how it works. That's really how it works. So if I keep coming back from my worth is established by God, wow. When I first read that, I started to cry. I said, wow, that's unbelievable. What an incredible statement. Where worth is established by God. I have nothing to prove. I don't have to fight. I don't have to claw. I don't have to put you down, which is what I was really good at. I don't have to do anything other than accept that truth and move into that truth. My worth is established by God. What a trip. And so many people, we got people coming, so many times we got people come to the center who have no experience with spirituality and who have a lot of difficulty with the word God. So then we do, of course, the first process is about the word God. So step one, I'm upset at the word God. No, you're not upset at the word God, you're upset. Step two, it's about you. It's not about the word God. Step three, how do you feel when you hear that word? And then invariably it goes back to an early experience of somebody doing something to them in the name of God. And there's always a connotation between the image of God that I have and my experience of the word God that I live with on an ongoing basis. And that is always, always, always a reflection of who I think I am. So if I have a problem with the word God, it's because I'm seeing myself. And I made up a God that is exactly like me. He's a temperamental bastard. He sends floods. He punishes whole populations. He wipes out God knows how many babies. That's what the God that I made up does. But if I replace that word in my mind, if I go back to who am I in truth, then that game is over. And then I recognize I don't have to change the word God. My daughter, when she first picked up this book, she was 15. And in those days, I had very little money, but the little money I had, I spent on buying people courses. So I bought courses for, God knows, 20 people. None of them ever opened it, but that's not the point. My daughter did open it, and she then went to work to changing the word he to she. She went to work changing the father to mother. She went from brother to sister, and till we finally got to how do you feel when you read the word father, when you read the word brother, when you read the word son, what comes up for you? Step two, in other words, it's about you, it's not about those words. And it came up with I'm lesser than. That's what she'd made up. Now the danger from I'm lesser than is that you connect it to a reason. I'm lesser than because society tells me I'm a woman and therefore I'm lesser than. No, that's not it. That's once again looking outside of you to find a reason. I'm lesser than is a decision I make, whether I'm male or female or nothing. I make a decision, I'm lesser than. No, society cannot do that to me. So this work, as you know by now, from your own experience, and certainly from listening to this little bit of talking, is that it's the end of the victim position. It is absolutely impossible to do A Course in Miracles, truly do it on a daily basis, and maintain a victim position. It cannot be done. Because I'm the author of my experience. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. How exciting is that? Right, Marion? It goes back to your story again. I asked for this guy. But why did I ask for him? I asked for him because he's reflecting something in me that I want to heal now. And what is that? What is the belief that makes me choose not to like a person? It could never have anything to do with that person. Lesson 78, if you want to save your own relationship or any other relationship, just read lesson 78. She stands in light, I'm in the dark. End of the story. Wow, what a piss off. It's not about the other person. She stands in light. Even if she's yelling at me, throwing pots and pans at me, coming at me with a knife, she stands in light, I'm in the dark, because I'm believing the attack. The secret of salvation is but this: I am doing this unto myself. No matter what the form of the attack or who takes the role of the attacker, still is this the truth. I am doing this to myself. All of these things lead back to 100% ownership of every single aspect of my experience on this planet, and not out of guilt, and not out of resentment, and not out of it shouldn't be this way, but out of incredible gratitude that it is this way, because this is how I choose my healing. Most of you know the name Jerry Jampolsky. Jerry Jampolsky started Anatomical Healing because he took one look at this book and said it's a great book, but nobody will read it. So he redesigned it into something like Love is Letting Go of Fear, and then a whole way of looking and working the course that makes it a lot more palatable and easier for people, and that apparently is important. It never appealed to me because I love the so-called difficulty of the course. I'm absolutely delighted with that. But anyway, he had a series of cards at the Attitudinal Healing Center in Sausalito, and one of them was, I'm responsible for the world I see. I decide upon the goal I would achieve. I choose the feelings I experience. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I've asked. And because that center dealt primarily with people with life-threatening illnesses, you can imagine that that last line, to any ego, is a very challenging line. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I've asked. And that is a horrible, horrible, guilt-tripping line as long as I think that anything ever has gone wrong. But if I accept that absolutely nothing ever has gone wrong and never will go wrong and never can go wrong because there is only God, there is only love, then that is a fantastic line to live with. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for. Yeah, of course I asked for it. Because I needed to do that little bit of healing. I needed to bring this person into my life to once again look at an old belief that I made up 70 years ago, and I'm now ready to really look at it and say, no, it's not who I am. I made that up. That's why I asked for it, not in order to get punished again. That's old religion. We've had a number of people at the center who come from one of the many Christian traditions or the Judeo-Christian traditions where punishment is absolutely important, and the more I'm punished, the better my chance of going to heaven is. That is an obscene way of looking at the world. There is no punishment. There's only, it's Christmas every day. Everything is a gift. So this person that walks into Marion's life was a gift, and all that was waiting for is for me to open the gift. Am I willing to open the gift, or do I want to keep thinking this is not what I asked for? That's
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that. Of course, you know, this is Diedrich, and of course I was there, and Myron Jones was there. She had just told the story as well during her session that he was talking about. but I think that this is maybe help explain a little bit more about why what the choose again is all about. Um, so it's taking these feelings that are pointing to our beliefs and looking at that belief and evaluating, is this, what does this have to do with me? Because all these, that's why it's so important to look at the feeling, look at the feelings that are coming up, and uh, to ask, where is this coming from? And once you start seeing where it comes from, then you can correct the belief that is the thing that makes it happen. The belief is what is causing all these triggers. So once I look at those false beliefs about what I am, who I am, and as Dove says, belief has that big LIE in the middle of it. um, Once I look at those beliefs about myself and recognize that none of them are true. None of them are true, because nothing in this world is real. And the only thing that's real is my connection to my source. That's the only thing that's real in the world. That's the only thing that's real at all. And so all this is doing is bringing me from the unreal into the real. Um, Anybody have any thoughts, anything they'd like to share about this? Let's see here.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a recap of what we dealt with years ago. I don't even know how many years. How many years do you think that was? 9 years?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it had to have been because this was the conference that happened after, I think after we went to that, and that was in
Okay, yeah,
2015. So yeah,
right.
9 years ago. Yeah, they're about 9 years ago.
About 9 years ago. And the thing is, I think that he does a great job. But I didn't stick, here I was 9 years ago, and now I take complete responsibility, but I didn't always. You know how it would just come back, and I wasn't disciplined. Now, the reason I think that it's changed for me now is because inside has changed.
Yes.
See, until that change happens, the whiner will show up, the one that thinks it's everybody's fault, but I think his process, the one thing he doesn't mention is the readiness, because there are times that I mean, I did it when we were there, Lynn. I did it the whole time, and I
Yeah,
got
you were
great
ready for
results.
sure.
I got great results, but then when things came up again, I was like, oh, I don't even want to do that, that kind of thing. Now, so it is a great process. I do think that I love how humble he is, that he said he got that from the course, because he didn't have to do, that came through him too. But you know what I mean.
Oh
He's
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Thanks. I think
yeah.
Ralphie has his hand up too.
I see that. Yeah, and what I was going to say is, he talked about setting the goal, which, remember when we went to that workshop with him, that was the reading that he assigned for us to read at night, was setting the goal. And
Yeah.
he really wanted to make sure that we understood that was, if you don't already have the goal of seeing the truth about yourself, then you're going to just continue to fall into these false beliefs. And the core of it, which he talked about a little bit, I think needed to be a little more emphasized, and maybe later on, is that you get back to the place of I am, because that's what it is. When we drop the false beliefs about ourselves, we
Right.
get back to the I am, and to the being that we truly are, the Christ that we truly are. And like you said in the first, how many of you are going to like to do this? Probably not many people. People don't like to do this, because it is work. It is paying attention. I just heard today, I was listening to Michael Singer. Was it Michael Singer? And he was talking about, one of them anyway, was talking about eating, and that if you had trouble, like you overeat, or you have eating disorder or whatever, that one thing that you can do is to uh, talk through as the observer every bit of the eating. So she's picking up the fork, she's putting it in the cake, she's bringing it to her mouth, she's putting it in her mouth, she's chewing it up, and she's savoring the taste, all that stuff. If you practice doing that as the observer, that you will no longer be eating out of just some kind of uh, feeling that you don't even know. You're actually focusing on and doing it. You are doing it. But he said, people will start doing that, but they won't keep doing it very long because it's hard. You have to
Oh,
pay
yeah.
attention. And that's it. We have to pay attention. Anyway, Rafi, please, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I love the way he reinforced everything we know. Nothing happens to me, it happens for me. It's never them. They're a mirror to my consciousness. There's no such thing as blame or criticism or offended or defensiveness. Um, and I love about I'm not ignoring the feelings or suppressing feelings. Welcome to feelings. Feel the feelings. That's what they're there for. He reinforced everything that we know and using his synonyms. But the truth is the truth, and I thought he stated it beautifully.
Thank you, Rafi. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And the more I see, and I also noticed I got a little triggered. Remember, Sharon, he mentioned Claudette, and I was like, because Claudette was his partner at the time, and they split
Right.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved Claudette, so I was really unhappy with him. But he picked another girl that was like so similar.
Actually, she broke up with him. You know that, right?
Well, I don't know. That's not what she said, but that's okay.
No.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, she probably said something different. Anyway, none of my no nobody's business.
Right.
Um, just saying that I was triggered by it, and so even just now when he said it, it kind of triggered me. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Uh, but yeah, that's the thing. It's the consciousness that we're using when we're doing these things. And
Mhm.
so that's why I switched the name of this group or this teaching to conscious communication, because I think it
Right.
works better than nonviolent, because really what we're doing, we're not trying to avoid um,
No.
being violent. We're trying to practice being conscious and communicating through our consciousness, uh, which is the oneness of what we are. And so I think that's really been helpful for me, and I like that I changed it because I think it's more likely true. Rico, yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, good afternoon, family. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. I send you love and light from my heart to yours. Great day here in Southern California. Lynn, I wanted to ask you a question. Kind of related to the film, but I'm asking you a question that I'm asking myself in certain situations. Some haven't even come yet. When you got triggered, are you able to identify that feeling besides just being triggered and then take it back to when was the first time you felt a feeling like that?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely. And
okay.
and that honestly, Rico, that has been the thing that has helped me more than anything. Yes, being triggered by the idea of a couple breaking up, someone being unfair to man and wife being unfair to each other. So many of my early memories are of all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
happening.
You don't have to break down the particulars. I was just looking at my life and some
Yeah.
things that transpired and seeing how I would trace that back. Thank you.
Yeah, and what did it make me? How did it make me feel? One thing that is just really, for instance, in my life, and Rafi, do you have your hand up again?
Yeah, no, but continue what you're saying.
Okay.
Forget it.
So one thing that, thank you, Rafi. One thing that really affected me is when I was really small child. I didn't even realize this, but I trace back so many of my triggers right now to one event where my sister was married. She had two little boys, and they were like, one was a year older than me, and one was my age. So we were just toddlers. And her husband worked at a mine, and there was a collapse in the mine, and her husband was killed. My sister, uh, she was just a young girl. She got married when she was 15. So she was maybe 18, 19 years old with these two little boys, and just now suddenly her husband is dead. And she went nuts. I mean, literally, I mean, she was in the bathroom with the razor blades, and everybody, the family was this huge drama going. It was just like a whole lot of really traumatic stuff was happening. And I'm over, in the corner with just in terror of what was happening. This was happening, and of course, nobody noticing. These little kids are having any kind of an issue with this thing, but I was terrified by it, and I can recognize that I can trace back so many. Things will come up, and I'll be like that sense of abandonment, that fear of loss and death, and all that stuff. All I can see it there. And what did that have to do with me? It had nothing to do with me. I was just, there. It had nothing to do with me, but I made up feelings or thoughts about myself based on that. I had made up how I was going to live my life, what kind of a situation I was going to have. I mean, you think you're just a little tyke. How can you think these things? But I recognize that as the choices I made throughout my life that had to do with relationships and all that kind of stuff, a lot of them stem back to that terrifying incident, right? So finding out and seeing, this is what happened, this is where this came from, really can. I mean, I don't have that anymore.
When you connect the dots, do you just let it go after that?
Yeah, because you recognize it has nothing to do with me. And the thing that this work does, besides saying this has nothing to do with me, the next step is to reaffirm the truth of what I am, because I am this holy son of God that has no, there's nothing here that is that can harm me or can cause me any of this. Just reaffirming to myself, that I'm the Christ, they're the Christ, we're all, operating in this love of God, and what I am is can't be damaged by these things. What I am could never have been damaged by this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rico. Rafi, yes, please go ahead.
Perfect example of it happened today. I'm on my way to the bank, and I reach into the place in the car where I always keep my my checkbook, and it's not there. The checkbook is gone. I stop the car, I pull over, I look under the seats, I check everything. Checkbook is gone. Okay. First thing I did was take responsibility for it. Okay, I have misplaced the checkbook. I don't know where it is. Dear St. Anthony, come around. Something's lost that must be found. Thank you. Turned it over to Venus and said it's all the same anyway. And went to the bank, uh, did my procedure, told the lady, but to tell her that what happened. And she said, "Oh, let me have your phone number." She wrote down her phone number. She will contact. I have to call the main branch, the main office. I was at one of the branches. We'll take care of this. I just got what the really feelings came up was wanting control, letting them go. How is this? Where is the benefit in this? Okay. First benefit is I was not upset at all. Okay. There was no upset. Any feeling that came up, I let it go on the spot. I get home, the phone rings. She's about this, blah, 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 talk about this. I got birthday, get this. Okay. The whole thing's all been straightened out. and it was calm and it was easy and it was efficient, and it took about 20 minutes to get through this because I just focused on the solution of it instead of the terror. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm gonna get, people are going to steal my phone. They stop this. We'll mail you a thing. You fill it out, bring it to the branch. They'll take care of it for you. It was all so simple. And that's eliminating the victim mentality, the ego mentality. That's all it took. And all the processes that fortunate that I'm blessed to have that facilitate that. And so I looked at the whole thing and when it was over, thank you, our infinite self. Thank you, infinite beingness, for making this smooth and easy and efficient. And oh, wait a minute, I got a Zoom call coming up at 4 o'clock. Oh, great! And it's when you work it, it works. And I love that this guy was able to put it in the terms that was most comfortable for him. And then I had a perfect example of how well it works if you just allow it to. And again, take responsibility and eliminate that ego victim mentality.
Right. And then recognize that it was the perfect thing to happen.
Yeah.
It could not have been any other way.
Right. Not
Nothing
only
could have
that, but
gone wrong.
it was happening in a dream. It wasn't happening to what I really am.
Yeah, it's just the story. It's
Right.
just the story. That's right.
And
And that's yeah. That's the other thing too is what Diedrich was talking about. He talking about telling stories, not telling those kind of stories like you just told, but telling stories about, this is what happened to me in my life, and this is how my boyfriend cheated on me, and this is how, I mean, those are the things that um there's no point in them because all they're doing is basically keeping the upset going, giving it meaning and keeping it going. Are you leaving? Oh, okay. What's up? Um, uh, you guys go ahead and talk for a minute.
well, I just wanted to add to that when you said about all the stuff that goes on in your life and your story. I was born here. To this family. We lived here for a while. Then we moved there. Then we moved there. Then I went here. Then this is where I went. Well, the whole story. I brought that up this morning and took a look at it. And it's a nice story, but it's just a story. There's nothing to true of what the truth of what I am. And again, the ego mind, can't know what I am. It's just a collection of thoughts and feelings and ideas and beliefs and stories and concepts and thoughts. It's a mechanical thing. It has no life. If you give it life, then you're perpetuating suffering pointlessly. Ah, I'm just so grateful for all of this goodness that keeps coming in and how simple it is. The simpler you make it, the more powerful it is. Like Lester used to say, KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. That was my partner just came in and told me that her brother was in an accident on the highway, so totaled his car. But he
Is he
is in the
okay?
hospital. He's probably going to be sore, but nothing broken that we could tell. But she could tell anyway. He's in the emergency room right now, so they'll get the workup, and I'm sure he'll be fine. God love him. Coming home from work.
My father used to always say, if he's not on a stretcher, he might be okay.
You might be okay. That's right. That's right. So anyway, thoughts and prayers, as we say. But anyway, so yeah, I think really the important thing is that oh gosh, our time is almost up. Okay. The important thing is that we take responsibility for our own feelings and thoughts. And that we recognize though that it's not my fault that these things are happening. These things are happening because they're part of the script, and it's an illusion. That's how it's written. So it's just happening, Aldi having an accident just now. That's part of the script, it made me think when I had an accident coming home from work, it's all part of the script, but it all works out. Everything works out because in the end, they all go home. In the end, they all live happily ever after, and it's not the end yet. But it could be. It could be the end. I mean, when I stop having grievances, that's the end for me. I can live 100 years and never have another fearful thought, never have another upset, never have another grievance. You know, that's a real possibility. And I think, for me, that's the only thing that's worth working for. Hey, McKaylee. Yeah, how are you doing, sweetheart?
Oh, good. I just want to tell you, I really appreciate this class and what Rafi and Rico contributed to it, and your contributions, big time, Lynn. And I love how he brings up the course too. And I just want to say that I had an incident today where, I mean, minds are joined, and mm, last week I had to have there was an issue, I can't talk about it, but something came up and we had to think about everybody involved in the situation at work. And so I called my clinical supervisor, and this is the second time she has done it, and she came and she had my back because I do home health, so sometimes you're by yourself. And
Yes.
so she came and she had my back. It was at the end of the shift. And so I called her today to let her know that I was sending a card to her clinical manager about how she goes above and beyond. And I was directed to do that. And she was said to me on the phone as I was driving home from work, she said, "I'm having such a bad day today." She said, "And you just called me to tell me you're going to send a card to my clinical manager." And so she just thanked me. And I thanked her for that that she thought of everyone. She just didn't think about herself. So that's all I wanted to say.
That's beautiful, Mickey. I love that. I love that. And that's it. We are here together to support and love each other. And I know that whatever is happening, no matter what has happened, because yeah, my partner is a nurse too, and there's some stuff that comes up. Things happen, and you don't. I mean, especially if you're alone with a patient, who knows? But anyway, thank you for that, Michaela. That's a beautiful story, and I appreciate that. And of course, I'm holding you in the light as well for all of this, because I know that it's all for our own good. Sharon, go ahead, sweetie.
I wanted to mention that I watched Rafi with, you know, the
With
other day.
Andy. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was fabulous, Rafi. It
Yeah,
was an interesting story. I had thought you did the course too. You didn't do the Course in Miracles, right? But it doesn't matter because the way you understand, it's the same thing. I just find that incredible, like how you got this right away. Your life is so interesting. So I wanted to share that with everyone.
yeah. It's a great. I just watched it earlier today as well, and yeah, it was really a great interview with Mandy Salk,
Yeah.
and we were talking about that at the beginning of the group here. Um, so yeah, I appreciate that very much as well. So, all right. Did anybody else have anything before we go? All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. And
Good
tonight we're going
morning.
over to did you guys get emails from Glenn
Yes.
Hoverman
Hmm.
about the group tonight?
Yeah.
Did because I gave him all your email addresses and I don't know if he
Yeah.
yeah. So okay. Very
Mhm.
good. All right, you guys, I love you.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a beautiful night.
Bye.